Okay, hello everybody. As I promised, I'm recording this video for just to review or to complete the session that unfortunately had problems tonight. So this session is called the Literature Review Becoming Theoretical Framework. The plan of this session was to be working on some issues regarding collaborative learning and collaborative research, your final literature review revision, some ideas about the APA style and citations, and self-directed language learning. Initially, I want to thank some of you who were actually looking for information about Asana and about the Gantt project. Remember that these tools, open source project management software, are useful for you to actually keep track of your research. There is also an easiest one that is a Plantilla Excel that you can also find the Gantt project in the Plantilla Excel. As we usually do in our sessions, I usually give you some strategies to succeed. And one of them is setting your learning goals or setting your task goals. Remember that you are learning at the same time, but you are also developing a work, and this work is research. So that is our strategy number one. Before you start doing something, please set your learning goal and set your task goal. This is even a strategy that you can actually use with your students, and it's a strategy that you can actually use and foster, so you actually foster independent language learning, autonomous language learning, self-directed language learning. My strategy 12 is to monitor your work and monitor your task. So at a certain point, you have to know to what extent what you are learning and what you are doing is actually what is requested, or if it is effective. As our strategy 13 in this case is learning to work collaboratively. Based on what you told me, there are new challenges, there are a lot of issues regarding collaborative work. I know that some of you have started having some conflicts regarding research, but the most important is that you actually continue facing the challenges and looking for the strategies to actually learn to work. One of the strategies that I suggest is the use of the checklist that you find here in these Google Docs, so you can actually, let's say, identify certain items, so you can actually remember the one that we used the other time, so you can actually know to what extent you are actually working collaboratively or not. The second part of our session tonight was regarding the literature review, and I wanted to remind you an exercise that you did in the reflection journal number 4 regarding the problem or the situation that you wanted to solve, to change, or to innovate at a certain point. It's very important that while you read, while you reflect, that you keep your problem or the situation that you wanted to tackle with your research. However, the most important is that you keep evidence that this problem actually exists. What is your perception might not be the reality, so we need to gather evidence of this problem by means of journals, by means of surveys, questionnaires. So my recommendation is that you start gathering some informal information in order to support the problem you are having. In that time, for the journal entry number 4, what we said is that you have to state a topic. Some of you in this moment have a topic regarding learning, regarding language, regarding skills, and regarding any other subject that you consider as your problem. You are also describing the situation or problem that you have, and it's very important that you start spending at least a page to describe this problem and this situation that you consider that is affecting your institution. It's important that you state the possible intended population, that you start talking about whether it's going to be the full school, or it's going to be just a level, or it's going to be a couple of students, etc., etc. That you actually kind of oversee the possible changes and improvements that you expect, and the impact your research will have, so that if you keep this in mind, you will go to preliminary research question, that is the exercise you are doing. Continuing with this situation of the problem in identification of the real research question, we have been working on the reflection journal number 7, that is, what is the literature review? And here the first exercise you have to do before I show you the next slide is to ask yourself, what is a literature review? So some seconds for you to think about that. Well, a literature review, please keep this definition in mind, is an objective, thorough summary and critical analysis of the relevant available research and non-research literature on the topic being studied. When we say here, there are important words: an objective, thorough summary, critical analysis of relevant available research. So keep this definition in mind that I took from these authors, so you can actually read and construct your literature review. Second question, what is the goal of the literature review? What's your goal? What is the goal to revise this literature? Well, the goal is to bring the reader up to date with the current literature on a topic and form the basis for another goal, such as the justification for the future research in the area. Again, another quick definition that I found, and I want to highlight current literature. One of you said, hey, that's why we cannot take all sources, and that is true. Some of them are valid, but some others are probably let's say, not valid because of age and because of time. Third question, why should I worry about literature review? Why should you worry about a literature review? To answer this question is because you need to have and to know what researchers have done and said to improve any particular topic. Because you have to identify what researchers have recommended so far, what have they used to improve so far, what strategies have they used so far, and what results have they got. This is what you have to say with your 10 or 15 resources. So we can say that you should worry about your literature review for reason number 1, reason number 2, and the reason number 3 is because it will help you to actually narrow your research question, to be more focused and to be more specific. So little by little, this literature review is becoming your theoretical framework. These are two terms that, let's say, can be confused, but at the same time, they are connected. You do a revision of literature to actually define what are your constructs, your variables, your definitions, and to take advantage of what others have done for your research. So the theoretical framework, this is the first time that you listen to this, will help you to learn more about the past, the present, and the future of research, to know the methods that have been applied so far, to know the answers that have been found so far, to identify the variables or constructs, let's say that in these two cases they mean the same, to identify the strategies to gather data, and to identify how these data could be analyzed and to justify the study. So whenever you read, please pay attention to this. Fourth question, how does the literature review relate to the research question? You have to make sure that you are actually relating the literature review with the research question. According to the literature, it says that Berkroff et al. Argue that a sufficiently focused research question is essential before undertaking a literature review. However, others consider that the literature review can help you refine or focus a broad research question, and it's useful for both topic selection and topic refinement. So there are two ways to see why the literature review is needed, either after a research question or just to help you redefine your research question. How to structure it. A literature review gathers information about a particular subject from many sources, is well written and contains few, if any, personal biases, should contain a clear search and selection strategy, and should contain accurate referencing. So this is the structure of a literature review. A literature review should detail the time frame within which the literature review was selected. So you have to say at a certain point that it was the 19th, the 20s, etc. Detail the strategy used to select the studies. Detail which studies were used. To analyze, synthesize, and disseminate the findings of the studies used, and to define the criteria considered to review the studies. So when you finish your literature review, this is what is expected to be done and to be expressed in your literature review. As an example that I have an example from some of our students in which ones they have actually some, let's say, constructs for the research. So they have started constructing their research, and as you can see, they have certain topics, they have certain authors, and they have very important and key ideas they are using for the research. This is something that you have to do in order to actually be more specific and to make use of the literature you are reading. What are some key words to consider while developing my literature review? Well, these are some words: a particular topic, selected material, body of literature, summary, critique, and conclusions. Be aware that this is what you do while you are developing your literature review. Where to find sources to be used for my literature review? Well, you can find them in the computer and electronic databases, keyword searches, bibliographical references, repositoriums as the Intellectum that we have at Unisabana, where you have the research projects of students and the databases that we have. You will have electronic journals, we have the databases, so make good use of this. So you will find some resources that are primary sources or some others that are secondary sources because some other people are mentioning them. What to do to construct the literature review? One of the questions: you should undertake a first read of the articles that have been collected by reading the summary of the abstract at the beginning of the papers, to undertake an initial classification of grouping of the articles, and to preview, question, and read and summarize what you have there. How to write it? Well, you can write it by themes or categories. You can make it chronologically. You can make it theoretical and methodological, or you can actually make mixing them. So there must be a way that you can actually decide that you want to, let's say, to organize your literature review. As I'm telling, this is a slide that we have already seen, and it's very important that you pay attention to the keywords. So actually these keywords emphasize on what you have to use and what you have to do to write your literature review. Don't forget that we also have a checklist that can actually help you to keep evaluating your work. At the same time, it's very important that you continue working in your, let's say, database that you have, because in that way you will keep very organized information. So we have format 1, or we have the format 2, that was later on shown to you, that is basic, a little bit more basic. Keep in mind the language that we have to use, and here it comes the assignment. For the next August 18th, you should read these 2 articles that are 2 chapters better from books that are posted in Virtual Savannah. So the plan is that you read, you participate in the discussion, because by September 11, we must have our first proposal literature review by September 1st. So here some important, let's say, issues regarding academic writing, and this important book that I found that is free on internet, so you can actually use in writing up your university assignments and research projects, which I believe are very useful. Okay, this is it for our session. I hope that you can actually review this video and that you can actually review our presentation to find key